The next attribute we will discuss is smart endpoints and dumb pipes. Now, to understand what is the exact meaning and motivation of this attribute, we need again to go down memory lane and look back at the SOA paradigm. Traditional SOA projects used two complicated mechanisms. The first one was ESB, Enterprise Service Bus. As you probably remember, the role of the ESB was to mediate between the services in the SOA system, helping with routing, authorization, validation, aggregation, and more. This made the ESB engines complex and expensive, and they were one of the reasons SOA ultimately failed. The second complicated mechanism was the WS star protocol. The WS star is an extension of the original SOAP protocol that helped expose methods over the internet and became the first web API. WS star represents the collection of these extensions. Each helps with a specific goal. For example, WS discovery for locating services in the network, WS security for, security, WS reliable messaging for ensuring messages are actually delivered, and on and on. Now, while these extensions were useful in themselves, they, together with the ESB, made inter-service communication complicated and difficult to maintain. It wasn't easy to follow all the extension types and what they do. It wasn't easy to keep them updated. It definitely wasn't easy to maintain the ESB. And in short, the communication between services in SOA became a real pain. With microservices, we want it the other way around. In microservices architecture, we use dumb pipes, meaning simple protocols. We want to use the simplest form of communication possible and leave the complexity to the service's logic itself. In fact, with microservices, we strive to use what the web already offers. While the SOAP protocol was a new standard, not based on any other standard, there are already web standards we can use, and the most common one is, of course, the HTTP protocol. And with that in mind, usually microservices expose REST API, which is the simplest API in existence. It's built on the HTTP standard and brings almost nothing new to the table. It uses the HTTP verbs, the HTTP response codes, and the HTTP protocol. Basically, it's HTTP. You can't get any simpler than that. And so, while traditional SOA systems look like that, with separate services connected using ESB, microservices application will look like that, with various disconnected services. Each one exposes REST API and communicate directly with each other using nothing other than simple HTTP calls. Now, there are some important things to note here. Even though it's stated in the article, direct connection between services is not a good idea. This creates coupling between the services, and if one service changes its location, all the other services connected to it must be updated too. A better solution is to use discovery service or a gateway. These two services offer different solutions to the direct connection problem and are quite common in large microservices systems. We'll talk more about service discovery and gateway later in this course. Another thing to note is that even though this attribute recommends the use of REST API, in recent years, new web API emerged that are gaining popularity quite rapidly. These APIs, such as GraphQL and gRPC, are doing a great job in exposing data and functionality to microservices, but contrary to the dumb pipes recommendation, are not that simple. In fact, they are quite complex, especially the GraphQL, but you can definitely consider them too in your microservices architecture. So, what is the motivation behind the smart endpoints and dumb pipes attribute? Well, the main motivation is to accelerate the development. As we mentioned before, the ESB and WS star protocols made the whole communication thing much more complex and as a result, slow. Going back to simpler methods of communication can definitely help in accelerating the development. In addition, using simpler tools makes the system much easier to maintain. Less engines and protocols equals less things that can break down, hence less and easier maintenance. Okay, so that was the smart endpoints and dumb pipes attribute. And now let's talk about the next one.